Reince Priebus is the chairman of the Republican National Committee. He is very sad that his Wisconsin Badgers could not pull the upset against the Duke Blue Devils for the NCAA championship. And he's also really thrilled that Hillary is in the race. Were you ready for Hillary, Reince?
Well, you know what? You can repackage quite a few things when you know something's going to happen like that politically. So it was pretty easy to be ready for Hillary at the RNC. And quite frankly, you know, say what you will, but I think the RNC pretty well crushed it over the last few days because there wasn't a single story out there that we weren't in. And I think part of our job, guys, is that we've got to bookend Hillary Clinton for the next 18 months. And she's a pretty easy person to kind of respond to because there's just so much there. I mean, the challenge is, what are you going to hit and how are you going to hit it? And I think it's important for us as a party to be the opposition.
You know, I sort of agree with you on that. I mean, when you look at her record and all of the controversies that continue to swirl around her, when you look at, you know, the fact that she is, you know, sort of not a particularly attractive candidate, there is just so much out there for you guys to work on.
Well, you look at the way that she rolled this campaign out, and some pundits on TV are saying, oh, this is savvy and brilliant. The reality is if you just take I try very hard to take myself out of just being the chairman of the National Party. There is no other option for her. This is the only strategy that she could employ. What is she going to do? Stand in front of 50 reporters at a press gaggle after speaking to a few thousand people in Iowa? She's not going to do it. So what does she do? She has a private video of 3 minutes. She sends out a tweet, and that's it so far. Pretty good earned media strategy. Then she says, well, now I'm going to get in a minivan. Obviously, she spends, a side note, lots of time in private jets. So now she's going to get in a minivan. No stops along the way. Nothing to talk about. Then the next thing you guys are going to hear about is you're going to hear about private listening sessions in people's living rooms. So it's the only strategy. She ends the speculation as to whether she's going to be the nominee, and then she doesn't have to answer any questions and doesn't actually have to deal with the media. And so it's the only strategy. And so if you were me, guys, and this is, it's not going to be easy, but if you were me, you would want no other candidate than Hillary Clinton.
That's exactly right.
She unifies our party, number one. Number two, she allows you to raise a lot of money. And the third thing is she's easy to recruit volunteers to our volunteer centers across America. So
and that makes, I mean, listen, that explains why your message is Stop Hillary, because the target right now obviously is that's rallying volunteers, that's rallying attention. However, let me just ask you, when the target is Stop Hillary, and that's the message, is it possible the RNC runs into the mistake of not being for something and they're only against something?
Well, sure. I mean, you can't just. There's no question about that, Larry. You can't just be all about Hillary and one-trick pony. I mean, that's clearly not where we need to be long term. But I think in the short term, it's important for us to be the opposition. It's important for us to be the person that the cable news channels will call because they have to have someone on the show to respond to Hillary's person on television. They can't pick one of our 6 or 7 candidates. We have to establish
you see that as the role right now for the RNC to sort of let the candidates talk about what they're going to do, but the RNC's role right now is to sort of lead that oppo strategy.
Certainly in the next few weeks. Now, if you look at I did a few different op-eds over the weekend in a few different places, and one of them was in the USA Today, and the theme was that we can do better than Hillary, and there's a certain case to be made that the theme ought to be we deserve better, we can do better than Hillary, not just stop her, but make the case for someone different. So, I hear you, and I don't think you're wrong. I just think that in the political world right this moment, we have to be the opposition.
Well, and talk about the the candidates that are emerging here. Today we're going to hear an announcement from Marco Rubio. While I was away on vacation, Rand Paul made his announcement, and Ted Cruz is in the race, and more are of course getting ready and ramping up their campaigns. We've got a pretty good-looking group of people running for the Republican nomination already.
I think so too, and I think it's fine. And as I said to people, I think drama and intrigue are good things as long as you can contain it. And if you can't contain the drama and the intrigue, then you're going to have a problem. And I think that what we're trying to do here is balance the idea of having a real debate, but then also make sure that we get to a nominee earlier in the process so that we can move on with the general election.
Will you step in if it becomes evident that the candidates are attacking each other too much?
Well, certainly, if the line is crossed, I don't have any problem.
Where is that line in your mind?
Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, I guess you know it when you see it, and a jab here and there is pretty normal and par for the course, and I think that's to be expected. But I think if things get extremely nasty, if that were to happen, I have no problem stepping in, and I'm not working for anything other than a victory in 2016, and one way or the other, I'm going to be back in Kenosha after all this is done. And the main thing is to make sure that I'm acting and operating a national party that allows us to win in 2016. And if we've got something that's out of control, then I have no problem stepping in.
Our guest is Reince Priebus, chairman of the Republican National Committee. And I got to tell you, as we've been, we talk about presidential politics quite a bit, probably since the day after the midterm elections, Reince. And one of the recurring themes about Hillary that comes up from a lot of our listeners is it's Clinton fatigue. We don't want another 4 years of Clinton. Why can't we? Oh gosh, Clinton. And that's a very powerful message. The fact that she was, pretty much just the wife of the president, 2 presidents ago. It's a powerful message, but do you think the Republicans are not able to make that message because Jeb Bush is also going to be a nominee?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, I think that there's no doubt about it that there's a certain boredom factor and yawn factor when it comes to Hillary Clinton. The difference is that Jeb Bush is his own person. He was the governor of Florida, and if you just look at him as an individual person, obviously he's not his brother, he's not his dad, and he hasn't been out there and introduced to the American people. So I don't see that, but I do. But in the case of Hillary, it's very different. I mean, she was Secretary of State. She did assume a high-profile role when she was in the White House, and she was a United States Senator here, a part of the activity in Capitol Hill. It was just very different than Jeb Bush. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hillary's out there, and she's driving from New York to Iowa in the minivan, as you mentioned.
Right.
By the
way, it'd be interesting if she actually gets behind the wheel for the first time in 20 years.
She hasn't driven in 25 years. That's right.
Yeah, right.
Well, here's my question. Do you think it's possible that she stopped at a Red Roof Inn along the way?
I highly doubtful, but...
but she's reaching out to the everyday American.
Well, it is interesting because this is all going back to the fact that, she's been getting paid a couple $100,000 for private speeches and private jets and, a certain amount of first-class tickets for the staff. And, like I said earlier in the interview, this is the only strategy available to them. It's nothing more. It's not savvy. It's not brilliant. There's really nowhere else they can go. And so it's just perfect. There's no press. There's no stops along the way. It's just, hey, I'm in a van.
I'm guessing there's a camera crew along for the little.
Right, real fast, just because we have so many listeners in Maryland. Who would you rather in the final say? Would you rather go against Hillary or against Martin O'Malley?
Boy, I don't know. I don't think O'Malley's got much of a record to run on either. I mean, we get a complete disaster in Maryland. But honestly, for me, I think Hillary's the best pick for our party. I've said this for a long time. It's not like I'm just saying it now.
Yeah.
I just think she gives us so much to work with, and it's not to say it's going to be easy. I hope I don't want to confuse people by the way I communicate about this, that I think she's going to be easy to beat. I don't. I just think that anytime you're in politics and you can get to a place where people are walking into a voting booth and they know in stark contrast what their choice is, that's a very good place for anyone in politics to be, and that's
All right.
where we want to be.
Thank you, Reince.
We got to leave it there, Reince. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.